Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Monday Morning Business Foreplay. This is the strategic warm-up that makes the rest of your week hit harder. Hot takes, bold moves, and business unfiltered. I'm Coleen Stubbs. I'm the founder of Simplified CEO Systems, and I help midlife entrepreneurs simplify their business so that they can lead with clarity instead of chaos. In short, I simplify, go high level. I teach my clients how to simplify their business, what to automate, and when and what they should delegate, and what they should always do themselves. Every month, I hold a 14-day Simplified Go High Level Challenge, and that is starting this month on Monday, the 17th. We'll be dropping links for that throughout the program today. Today's guest is Tim Maile, and we are diving into, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Or do you? Tim's going to be sharing with us how to review what you're currently using, where the gaps are in your knowledge or your setup, and whether you're GDPR compliant. You're going to be walking away with real strategy, real perspective, and probably a few uncomfortable truths because growth doesn't come from your comfort zone. Welcome, Tim. Will you please, everybody, give Tim a warm welcome? So glad you're here, Tim. Will you go ahead and tell us, let's start by you sharing about you, something that makes you personable so that we know you as a person. Like, what's your favorite thing to do? Tell us how you spend your day, who's important in your life, a couple things like that.
Yeah, thank you very much. See, when I'm not taking IT, taking it apart, pressure testing it, and then trying to put it back together. Yeah, I've got short and simply, I've got a 13-year-old son. Long term, said my wife put up with me we've been together since 2004, so she put up with me that long. How? Well, but yeah, there's stories there I can't probably put on here, but yeah, so very big on the family thing. And the other one is, yeah, there's thing I've always been quite big into, I say, helping people out, being involved in community groups as well. I've done that side of it where I live. And on top of that, yeah, when I was growing up, for example, and it's still to this day, I did spend a bit of time learning a few, we'll say, musical instruments from school upwards. So violin, guitar. So when my son wanted to say he was interested in local choir, yeah, he had it. See, I was his secret weapon, helping him out with that. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. So, fun fact, I play the cello and a little bit of piano. I played the clarinet in the marching band in high school, but cello I started younger and I loved that. So yeah, yay for musical instruments. You just never know when you look at people, like what they're really into or what they enjoy, right? So let's get into your business and share with us what brought you to this business, to what you're doing. What was your motivating factor that led you to create your business?
So I started out, and I'm going to say, I would say it starts from when I was about 8 or 9 years old. With my son sarcastically calls it and does a run at ancient. Yeah, my dad worked for a big corporate, BP, the oil company at the time. He brought back late 80s, so it's when the whole working from home corporate thing started kicking in. He brought a computer home from work, and then I would say that's where it started. Yes, I learned how people break stuff by breaking my father's computer once or twice, we'll say. So yeah, then from that, I got the bug. While I was at university, my dad also did his own business. So the whole Y2K bug that was meant to kill every time clock and be the end of the world he helped people get past that bit. He did his own thing on the side. Whereas my bedroom was basically the workshop, and I was stripping PCs apart and resetting them back to Windows Basic. And this was, so I had a mini workshop of where things are at, and people wonder how I can work methodically. That's how I learned the hard way. And so yeah, I was helping him out. And then I got into my group of friends at university, and that we've always still long-term friends to this day. We're all heavily into computers in some way or another. Yes, I still play online games with them. I think you can see it. So yeah, I'll happily say that, and I don't care. My son's picking up the bad habit as well, as I found out, but as I'm discovering, getting kicked off my own PC sometimes by him. But
See when I'm done with it.
so yeah, that's pretty much where it started. So then I got made redundant about 8 years ago, out of nowhere. And that's when I thought it was just the right time to start my own business under my name, because I spent so many, after nearly 2 decades in the corporate world, everything I did for them was under that company's name, not mine, officially. Or the manager was taking. So yes, it was about time. It was the right time to just get on with it. Take that risk, take the leap, and I'm going to say it, discover my voice even more, which unfortunately not everyone loves now. What can I say?
Well, I have to be honest with you, Tim, and say that as a mom, I'm super glad that you were able to put things back together that you took apart, because I have a son who cannot put things back together. He's much better now that he's an adult. But when we first moved to this area, and we live in rural Missouri, and it was super difficult to get internet here. But when we did get internet, it wasn't up to par, and it wasn't up to what we were used to coming from out west. And so he thought he could fix it. So he took all the computer router stuff apart, not knowing that it would take 3 weeks for them to get us a new one. Yeah, so I was not very pleased as a parent with my child then, but he's the same one that when he was little, he was probably 5 or 6, and I'd come in the kitchen in the morning and he had his face down in the toaster. And I'm like, "What are you doing? Get your face out of there." And I went doing whatever I was doing back in the other room back. I'm like, "What are you doing? You're going to get burned. Get your face out of there." He's like, "I'm watching this thing turn red." And I'm like, "Your son, get your face out of the toaster." I came back and he had burned because he stuck his nose down in the toaster. I'm like, "Son." But now he runs a small engine repair. And so just as a side hustle, something fun that he likes to do. And so there's hope for him after all. But I love that you could take things apart, put things back together. That's a great foundation for your business. So let's talk about being GDPR compliant. I just want a show of hands in the room. I'm going to change my view here to gallery. I want to see how many people know what that is. Raise your hand if you know what being GDPR compliant is. Okay. Well, this is your perfect classroom then. I would love for you to share with us. I think I know kind of, but then I feel like I don't do enough to make myself dangerous, so it's okay. So go ahead and let's dive into sharing that with us and tell us why it's so important and what we need to do with that.
Yeah, so one of the biggest problems, and I'm going to say it's when people they get hold of me, and it doesn't matter where they are in the world. I'm going to say this: every company has a website. Websites are global. They cross borders. You name it. One of the different things people don't understand is different countries, different. You've got to make sure you have different checkboxes on form. On certainly, I'll just say when the way people collate forms, for example, in Europe, for example, they're really hot on the unsubscribe option on some. If you don't have that, it's a one-way ticket for them getting in trouble and getting the whole website blacklisted, for example. And it's just one of those things about knowing how I put it. You don't want to it's better to be prepared and have someone tick a few boxes, because the other one is, and let's be honest, how much do we sign up for that we forgot we signed up for in the first place? And then people go, I haven't done that. And then they start. So when I started out, before I went staff after university, I was freelancing 12 years. And one example, it was just that. The companies in question, they had a website and it was it said sign up to our newsletter thing. And it was they provided private medical, like private nurses that go out to help disabled, elderly, Alzheimer's, dementia, even if it's the housekeeping, but the catch is most of the families that look after them, they didn't understand. They got in trouble because whoever set up their system, didn't put a simple I agree to, or something that tracks the date and time they agreed to it, whether they were customers of that company or not. So that company got in a lot of trouble, and I was actually brought in not because of the company, but because of the people buying it, because it got into administration and bankruptcy because of being sued. So
When we're looking at this as, I believe everybody here is a small business. When we're looking at this as an entrepreneur, owner, solopreneur, and owner of a small business, on the bottom of my emails I send out and on my forms, there is an opt-out. So the opt-out allows them to decide that they want to opt out of everything from Monday Morning Business Foreplay, or they could choose from my newsletter. They could opt out of the newsletter. They could opt out of networking, emails, just different kinds. It's broken down into different kinds of emails I sent. And then also, of course, I have the button that says you understand that all sales are final. And then, of course, the button that says you agree to receive gifts, emails, whatever from this email address or this business. Is that enough?
That's enough, yes, if it's, say, like newsletters, things like that. But if something is actually collating information, as it were, like I would say, signing up to your services, for example, then I would argue, even if it's a lead magnet to a point, because if it's the first step, then it proceeds to the second step. There are people that forget they even filled out the first step, and they might come back, I don't know, 3 months later, because not everyone comes in straight away. It doesn't hurt to just say, make sure you've got things like I agree to. You said like opt in or opt out disclaimers when things go out on every newsletter, because yeah, people will forget, or they might just suddenly wake up one morning and go, well, I need to do a thing out of my newsletter I'm subscribed to, for example.
Right. And so on forms where we're collecting, let's say we're collecting payment information, isn't that normally on the form already?
Normally, I will say it should be, but it's not. Sometimes people rely on, so if it's going through a payment gateway, so whoever you use for your payment, you take payments by card, for example.
Right.
Sometimes, yes, it's on that page, and that's how they rely on that. But if there's a problem, if someone fills it out, and I'm going to say it, the payment gateway doesn't work, or they've made a change, then the company themselves are responsible. So having I agree to you using my information for whatever purposes it's for. So if it's just processing a payment, it's just another way of backing things up, giving yourself a, you're not relying on one thing to cover yourself. They've agreed on the form itself.
Okay, I'm going to make a really bold move right here. And you guys don't laugh because I'm putting myself on the spot. Tim, I'm going to share a form on my screen. And so this is just a GHL form. These are my my boxes they can check here. And then this is something that they purchase. How do I need to improve this? And this would be processed through Stripe.
Okay. So I would say with this, you've got this covered, because I call it a disclaimer, or that by checking this box, you consent to.
So for anybody that doesn't know in here, there is a place when we're building this. So right here, if I go to my settings, you can make these mandatory to be checked or not. See where this says required?
Yeah.
And so I always make it required. They can't process the payment. They can't finish the form if they haven't checked these. And so I would just say to anybody that's doing this, make sure that your check mark is on for required.
Yeah, that's always how I build forms for any of my clients. Now, they always argue, why do we need to have these as you? So when I build forms, sometimes even the submit button doesn't appear until they've done the required I agree to, for example, to process the information, even, because you'll always get one person that will shortcut. That's one of the biggest things that I've been gone in, because someone's gone in and turned off the safety. They turned off the mandatory field, and people haven't been doing it. So people haven't been doing it, and that's why the example I used earlier got in trouble.
Right.
Someone went in after they got someone else in to do that. How can you make it quicker for our staff? And they turned off the mandatory field on they agreed to terms and conditions, for example, which meant when they came to chasing what's going on, they hadn't agreed to the terms and conditions. So the company was caught in a rut, as it were, because they turned the safety off. It's simple as that.
Right. And it works the same way with sales. And so I know that I know a couple of people who have actually had their Stripe accounts shut down because they had so many chargebacks. And so when that happens, when people go and dispute charges that you have, when you've charged their card and they've disputed those charges, it's very helpful and very much in your favor when it says on there that all sales are final. They're agreeing to that and they know that. And so that's one of the things I have on mine for sure. Now we have two questions, Tim, in the chat. The first one is Carl, and he says General Data Protection Regulation. Is that what GDPR stands for?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so correct, Carl. And then Ashley said, is this different state by state, or is it federal, or is it continental? Is it, how does that go?
So it can vary state by, I'm going to say it can vary state by state, or however people group it. So when I set a form up for someone who's in for someone who's in, say, where it's based out of the US or based out of Canada, for example, it can depend on where you are, or where, I'm going to say it, where's your audience? Who's going to see it? So prime example, I'm working on updating bringing back one of my older lead magnets, for example. I put one question on the lead magnet, and the first thing it did automatically was go, when I went to save it, sorry, it blocked it because of one of the questions. Because under certain rules it was in the European rule set, it looked like I was trying to collect password information to quote the website. So I had to message the people that provided the help desk, and they quickly came back saying, apologies, it's the AI automatically detecting it incorrectly. So just as a heads up, when you develop things or you write things or you're going to put a form together of any kind, be really careful how you word it, because how we as humans read it is different to how an AI will read it as well.
That's true. And so this leads back to when you're saying, depending on where your audience is viewing it, that leads back to what you're saying about the fact that we create our websites to be able to reach worldwide. And so that is important to know. Is there a universal something we can put in? Because I have clients in France, I have clients in Canada, I have clients in the United States. Is there a universal something we can use?
Yes, so the key one to have on a website is...
Can you put it in the chat so everybody can have it? That would be like a nice plus.
There is a plugin which you can have put on the behind the scenes on your website, which I can never remember the name when I need to use it. So, but what it does is that annoying bit about the cookies policy on your website. It says, do you agree to cookies and everything else? That is a must on any website. I've seen so many people that say, I can get websites ready in 24 hours, and they miss that. They don't have that, and then they wonder why the website doesn't go too high up when people try finding it.
And so are you talking about the pop-up that pops up that says you agree to cookies, or
Yes.
you reject cookies, or you can customize your cookies?
Yeah, all of the above. Some say you can customize it. I prefer one that says we agree to it. You agree to the cookies, because it keeps it simple. Because not everyone understands what they all do. Let's be honest. How many I could say, how many technophobes, as I could just put it here, who understand how everything works that you use, have we got, for example, here right now? Yeah, that's exactly.
Well, how many of us have that pop-up coming up about our cookies? Because I don't.
Yeah. So it's worth checking. Only theoretically needs to come up once when you first go onto the website, and your computer might remember it. But what I would say is always check you've at least got it on there, because as long as someone's clicked on it once, you tick the box.
Okay.
That is universal. Yeah.
And so then does it cookie to them? I don't know what the right word is. So then the next time they visit the website, it's already done. Or they have to click it once every time they visit.
No, it should only come up when they visit it once, say the first time, unless people have got something on the computer that clears all of the cookies and the history on the browser when they exit the computer. If that or shut the computer down.
Okay, yep, that makes sense. Okay, so let's talk about how we can find the gaps in the knowledge and setup that we have. So obviously, we're going to learn as we go. That's for the knowledge. But when we're looking at our setup and we're looking for gaps outside of the GDPR, what other gaps should we be looking for?
The first one, and I'm going to say this, is ask anyone who works in tech. They'll probably tell you this. The one thing I hate, not hate, but it can be difficult, is when we only know what we know. But the biggest thing is, how much do you know about why things are set up, how they are for however you run your business? It's the why that I'm going to say is there. So again, going back to having the checkboxes for things, for example, they're there for a purpose. You'll always get someone come in who just wants to get on with it, shortcut it. That's the biggest thing. Happens in the corporate world all the time. When I was setting things up there was always a true example. Setting up it's a big multinational design job, and all I can say is here you had the senior manager sat in a meeting going, well, people are moaning they don't know what's going on, for example. So, or when things come in, or when things are fed onto the system. So I turn notifications on. Then they start moaning. They're getting too many notifications. It's filling their emails up, for example. So again, it's about having things set up. Why is that set up? It's so they knew what was going on. You can't have it both ways. So that's one thing I would say. You do have to. It's about being patient and understanding the why and not shortcutting it. I would then say the next one thing to think about is, and this is something that I think it's becoming a lost art with the AI being used more and more. People are relying on AI more and more to the point they're just trusting it's going to work. And the problem there is there's no training for it. I've gone into so many small family business, certainly locally to where I live, and they go in, a prime example, explaining to someone why the banking system is asking for the equivalent of a security code or two-factor code or something every 30 days when they're trying to do the banking, and they just don't. As I said, it's irritating. We have to keep picking the phone up and getting this code come through just to log into banking. They don't. It's understanding the why. It's because of security, for example. So training is, I'm going to say it is the key. That it doesn't hurt to keep up to date with what's going on with what you use and the reason for it. I've seen so many systems that have extra things now they didn't have. So, prime example, I've used Adobe, the Creative Suite, because of being in the corporate world over 20 years. And I still do to this day. When they first came out, it didn't have two-factor on it, for example. It didn't have its own. I mean, Adobe's got its own app. You put a code in directly, and then that gives you the code. But that's just an example. It's knowing the why, so then they understand why it's set up, and then it just means it should stop shortcutting at the end of the day. But it should be a constant thing, and I think that's the thing that people are letting slip. So, we just let the AI do it, and we don't have to worry about it. Well, how can you? But that's the biggest thing that I find. So.
Right. And so Ashley's asking in the chat, is there a good place to do trainings for things like this?
Yes, there is. I don't know if I'm allowed to do a bit of self-promotion here, so I won't.
Yes, you can. Absolutely can. This is your turn.
Yeah, so, I mean, because exactly for what that question is based on, I put together a program I've put in. It's a training program which looks at what people are using now, not going into any specific system. So it doesn't matter if you use Google, so it doesn't matter. It looks at what people use it, but it's a structured framework so they can understand why things are and is there a way to improve it, for example. So that's one place, and that is the Technophobiacs link in the information already. The other one is if you've got a system such as Go High Level, for example, they do have video tutorials behind the scenes. Or any good system like that has something behind the scenes that is what features they've added or why they've changed it, or if those people, the provider says, right, we've got a venue, got a training, a 1 hour video, here's an update after 3 months of how things have changed, for example. Pen those events, for example. If you have to multitask it, have it while you're doing something else. Have it while you're doing something else. It doesn't hurt one bit. It's the biggest, best resource. If they're doing updates to things, try and keep up to date, for example. That's probably the best thing that I would say there. And that's why I've done my technophobia, because there's so many things out there, so many options, but there, as I said, it's just knowing why you do things, how you do it.
I love that. And so what I do is I take Go High Level, using Go High Level. I create websites, pages, the entire back office system for my clients. I do it for so many people that just want it done. They don't want to know the how and why.
You said it exactly. That is where I've been asked in the past to go in.
Yes.
And that's why I am all about the proactive over the reactive. I spent 20 years doing the reactive stuff, going in after it had gone wrong and then having to call out big senior managers. And I mean six-figure salary managers, and I'm a contractor. So I've got to be really careful how I word it. But then they say, why are things going wrong? And it's because that person there has basically let you not follow this rule book that's this thick, and I'm meant to, and quote a project that I was on, and I won't name the name of it because I might get in trouble if I do, but you have the client has a rule book, again, as I say, about 3 inches thick. I built something that I was taken on to build something to make sure people are following that rule book on how they upload, they're not skipping steps, for example. It highlighted every single person just using the data from the DMS system. And then the other kicker, they kept then wondering why, or should I say, how they knew who wasn't following the rule book. Well, they forget. Every time you log in, it logs who's logged in.
Yep.
I don't need to say any more than that, do I? Or who hasn't. So, and it scored them out of 100, for example, and it gave them that. And then in the end, I am now working with the client with that, not just them, but the person who's the client of the site. So now that is standard across the board, for example. So I think you see where I'm going with that.
Right. And so one of the things I do is I say to my clients, I'll absolutely set everything up. You don't have to know how it works, but as the owner of your business, you need to know and you need to understand. And so my secondary part of what I do for them is I create tutorial videos and SOPs that are printable or downloadable that walk them through each step so that they do understand, because we are responsible at the end of the day. You're responsible for the information that you're putting out into the world and how you're doing it. And nobody else is responsible for that. And so you have to know, you have to take note, you have to take the time to learn. I try to simplify that learning process for them, but you probably wouldn't be surprised, Tim, but I have opened so many websites. One of the funnest things I do is go open the privacy policy and their terms and conditions. And you would never believe how many I find that say, put your privacy policy here, or your terms and conditions go here.
That was funny. That was the first thing, one of the first things before my website went live, that I made sure I had. My background's in a high-level multi-million-pound international building jobs. Things like the Olympic Park in the UK before when it was a waste ground, just to give you an idea. So yeah, exactly that. That's the first thing I made sure I got right. And then my website wasn't public until that was on there, and I was happy with it.
Yes. And I go in, I have some clients who've come in, they're like, I don't need your help. I'm going to build everything myself. I just want the subscription through you. And I'm like, okay. And then I go back in and check their stuff, and I'm like, okay, so here's a copy of a privacy policy that would work for you in terms and conditions. You probably want to add those. And you want to make sure that you have all this information in your footer and in your header, and go back and give them some little tips. I have had people still say, oh, we don't need that. And I'm like,
yeah, no, I have a phrase. There's a phrase. It's you can that I like using. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink.
Yeah, and you don't need it until you need it. And if you don't have it when you need it, you're SOL, and you are accountable. And so it's so important that we cover those things. And so I want to take a few minutes. This has been great. I want to ask Tim, do you have anything else that you really want to bring up or share with us before we open the floor for questions?
No, I think we pretty much brought up all of the yeah.
Open it for questions. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
There's a couple in LinkedIn. Mark had said back to the cookie thing, make sure that that's on. And then he sent a link for Cookie Hub. Have you heard of that
I have
before?
not. Will you drop that in the chat? And then Tim, have you heard of Cookie Hub? Is that Mark
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Hi, Mark. My LinkedIn's not working, so I can't see you, Mark, but hi. I appreciate your support. Anything else?
Then I had a question as well. Back to the AI thing where it reads different in different areas. Is there a good place to check that? Like, is there like a website or a place where you can make sure it's reading the way you want it to read?
The answer is there's no definitive one source, no, because AI, it takes what you give it, as it were. And the other one is if you use, for example, I mean, how many different AIs are there? You've got ChatGPT, you've got Gemini, the Google Gemini. I like using the dollar.com, DOLA.com, for example. They all read things differently. They all write things in a totally different way. If you put the same request in, there's no one fits all with that. And that is why I say it depends. You've got to be careful. Are you using the right one that's suitable for what you want it for?
And I think, I'm going to go out on a limb. I know Lil agrees with me here and Carl agrees with me. You know what? We can only do so much with AI, and you shouldn't be relying on it for everything. Even when I do introductions, oftentimes I'll take 2 LinkedIn profiles, plug them in and say, I'm introducing these 2 people, create an introduction for me. And it creates the most bizarre thing. And I'm like, okay, no, I'm introducing them. I don't know why you don't see the Common Core here, but I'm introducing them because of this and because of this. Let's come up with something better, but you can only rely on that as a tool. It's not an end all. And anybody that's using it as an end all is going to be really disappointed, I think. Not only that, but as it changes and grows, you have to keep up with it, but you still have to be the main part of your business. It can't all be coming from AI. I don't care how simple it is to plug in and say, give me all of this. It's not correct. I created an invitation for something the other day, and it had 2023 on it. Well, Lordy, I hope you guys made it. You know what I mean? You've got to be the one in control. You have to be
the other one. I think the other thing I would say is it's about as well. If you're writing using certain things, sometimes you can tell when they're developed by people that are, say, US based, or by how they spell words. Yes. So, there's certain words like center, we spell it CNTRE. You lot spell it CENTER, for example, just to give you examples. So it is about knowing, you can spot it a mile off if you know where to look, but there is no one definitive. It is about the human side having to be there to quality check it at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely have to. But as a sounding partner, and when you're expanding things, looking for more ideas, I think it's a great tool. It's a great resource, but it's not the end all. Okay, are you ready? Do we have any other questions or comments before we move on to our hot seat? Okay, Tim, are you ready?
As ready as I can be. What can I say?
Okay. I got 3 hot questions for you. The first one is, what's the one thing everybody in your industry is doing that you think is complete bullshit, and why are they still doing it?
Right. So I have been doing what I do for well over nearly 30 years now professionally, and since I was about technically 9 or 10 years old. And what I'm seeing is you've got people redesigning the wheel, as I describe it. So, true story, someone said, can you test something on a group that I'm on a group? And he thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. And then I highlighted to him that I just asked a few simple filtering questions, but it's similar to that. And then I've got to open access to my stuff so it can do what it does. So I'm kind of opening security holes here, but there's something that's been around for over 20 years that does the exact same thing that I was using in the corporate days and I still use to this day because I know it, I trust it. That no trust like approach. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. There's a lot of redesigning the wheel. And I look at things and I go, yeah, but that can be done in that, and that can be done in.
Keeping it simple is huge in
So
the
if
scalability.
that's why the heat of what I said, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. If someone's already got something, this is always my approach with clients. Right, it works. You've got staff that know how to use it. I'm not going to bring in a whole new thing when all they might need is one little extra and then link it up, if that makes sense. There's no point replacing everything when it gets very confusing for those that don't understand it, and that's why I think people are buying too many shiny new toys these days.
Exactly. And I will say too that on the shiny new toys part, anytime new things come out, we're attracted to them. I bought a diesel Suburban and I paid cash for it, and it was the first year it was out on the market. Biggest mistake. Biggest mistake, because it was a lemon and I had paid cash for it. And so, yay, lucky me. I had a very
Yeah,
expensive lemon. And
that's why. Yeah, like I say that's why with me, when there's here's a new phone. So the iPhone, I jumped for the iPhone 5 when it first came, when the iPhone 5, which was the first big change Apple did with the port change and all the I got the first generation iPhone 5, the one with all the bugs in it.
Yeah.
Literally, it was don't yeah, you see where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
So as soon as I
exactly.
could change it, don't get me wrong, I got a good deal on it, but it
Right.
didn't last as long as the rest of it. So yeah, it doesn't hurt just because something is brand new out. Don't jump. There will always be in software, in anything.
Yep.
No
Exactly.
matter what, there'll always be updating it, always be fixing it. There is no, yeah.
Before we go to our second question, I see that Carl has a question. Carl.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick comment. Unfortunately, it seems like in the corporate world, in the medical world, whatever, a lot of things are put out and they test it on us to find out what's wrong with it. And we jump right in because we think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then we end up paying the price. So I'm very leery of anything that's new, including AI. I use it, but I trust it, but I verify because it's been around for a long time, but relatively new the way everybody's using it now. So I just want to say, unfortunately, we're the test monkeys, I think.
I think I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Okay, Tim, question number 2. What's a mistake you made that cost you serious money or time that you kept making anyways because you were too proud or too scared to admit that it wasn't working?
That was I'm going to say, part of the old me. It's the coming out of the corporate world where you had to just sit there quietly, be a people pleaser, do what you're told to do. That's what I started to do when I first started the business. And did it serve me? No. Did I get used and abused as I describe it? Yes. Does it still bite today? Because people locally still get hold of me about, can I have something for free? Or can I borrow something? It still happens. But yeah, I'll say it now. I don't do that now. If I need to make a point, I just make a polite, constructive criticism. I think it's the best way to word it. If something's not going to work, speak up. If you work with a team of people, we're all entitled to a viewpoint. The number of decisions people were making when I was on certain projects and it was going wrong, and it was because I wasn't in a room when they were making decisions on what we're going to do. Then they introduce us all into the room, and they kind of regret it because me and the other guy who's doing the tech side of it was going, no, because that's why we're going back and having to redo our work every week. It was all rework, for example. So yeah, don't be a people pleaser at the end of the day because it gets you Zippo.
I think, Tim, that we're looking to build relationships with real people and not build relationships necessarily with corporations anymore. We're wanting relationships with Tim and with Carl and with Ashley, with Lil, and with the people that actually show up authentically, who have opinions and aren't afraid to say, hey, you might want to think about that for a second before you do it, or whatever that looks like. So I think that that's important, that you do take that stand and you do show up as yourself. All right, number 3, if you could only give one piece of advice to somebody in your industry, but would go completely against the grain, what would it be? And why is it worth the backlash?
The thing I'm seeing a lot of is they go in, And they've got some company that's saying, right, you sell this product, you get like an affiliate thing, but they just have this new product and they don't use it themselves. So, prime example, they're selling something they've never tested, they've never used, they don't use it, and it causes way more problems than it fixes at the end of the day because they don't know how to fix it because they haven't faced it. Yes, I'm an antivirus that I've got a reseller account for, but I use the antivirus program, for example. So I know it, I know how it works because, yes, I have the same problems they do. If I get clients that play online gaming, for example, those updates the games put through Steam and all the other game clients, you don't think the antiviruses pick those up, misread those? That is the biggest thing that I would say to them is don't just sell something because someone said just sell it. At least learn how it works. That's why I like using the phrase, I like to make IT, break IT, pressure test it, and then make it work for them.
Yes. And I love that. And I would agree wholeheartedly with that. I've had people ask me to affiliate for different products that they have, and I don't because it's not something that I use. And so I don't know the experience behind it. Now, there are other things that I do. For instance, I love Aragon AI headshots, and they are the only AI photos that I've loved. And so I do share that link, and there are other services there. And it's the same way with even networking when I've had people say, come and bring a friend. And I'm like, but I've never been. And so I'm not going to invite somebody to your networking. On that note, I'm going to say Carl Lucci has a networking event on Wednesdays at 1:45 Central Standard Time. If anybody wants to join that, Carl, his address is above his head there, and you can go there to register. I am there every Wednesday. So thank you so much, Tim. This has been very, very informative. Maybe more serious than most of our Monday morning business foreplays, but very informative. Does anybody have any last questions or comments before we close out for today? Well, this has been Monday morning business foreplay, and it's a good thing it's on Monday, right? So we can end like this. Everybody, please save the chat, and thank you for attending today. Remember that on Monday, August 17th at 11 a.m., we're having our kickoff meeting for the 14-day Simplified Go High Level Challenge. If you are a Go High Level user and you are not 110% confident in your back office system, you need to join this challenge. It is $397 investment, and every day for 14 days, we're going to do one thing inside your back office that is going to help you gain clarity, understand what's going on, and use it confidently. This has been Monday Morning Business Foreplay. If today's conversation has helped you to see something differently, make one clear decision, or take a meaningful step forward, then this hour did exactly what it was designed to do, because clarity creates momentum, and momentum beats motivation every time. Thank you for joining us.